We're at the Kalgoorlie Backpackers, amongst, it seems, a lot of topless male German tourists for some reason, which is tough. And I'm going to be meeting with Department of Education staff about the kinds of work that they're doing in schools to support gay and lesbian young people. And also I'll be meeting with the local mental health workers, so people who are, I guess, called up to schools and other organisations when young people are doing it tough. So we'll see what's happening in Kalgoorlie. What the teachers and workers have told me about Kalgoorlie is that it has quite a macho mining town culture. So they talk about how it's more rougher, tougher and manly and masculine, and that they talk about if there are any lesbian, gay, bisexual or transgender young people, that they feel that things would be a lot tougher for the young men. As with the conversations that I had in Esperance, people said, look, we think it might be okay, however, we must be honest and say that if a young person did come out as gay, particularly if they're a young man, they would get their head kicked in. So clearly there is some way to go. I had a very real example of a young person who actually did get their head kicked in for being gay. This was a young Indigenous man who not only came out to his friends, but he did so by his actions. He was caught in a sexual act with another young man. His friends did not react well to that, and the mother of one of his friends has actually been very, very proactive in not only talking to the young men, but trying to engage local teachers and workers to say, what can we do to support this young man who has just come out to his friends effectively, and how can they promote, I guess, their group, which was a very solid, close-knit group, how can they support that group staying together and having a bit more kind of understanding between them all. So yet another example of how, whilst we can think that things are better these days, on the ground and in regional Australia there are some examples of where young people aren't being necessarily accepted and understood. So my conversations today with local workers and teachers have had them all saying, look, now that you're talking about this issue with us, we actually haven't had young people come out to us, we actually haven't had young people identifying as gay or lesbian, and we actually haven't had teachers and workers talking about the importance of challenging and interrupting homophobia in Kalgoorlie and the surrounding regions. But whilst that can be, I guess, a cause for concern, at the same time there are causes, there are reasons for hope. One of the reasons for hope is that in talking to these teachers and workers, showing them some resources, talking about what other parts of regional Australia are doing, as well as some of the work that I've done, has made them say, gee, I really need to reflect on what I'm doing as a teacher and a worker. I need to think about the conversations I'm having with students. I need to think about what resources I have at my fingertips and the kinds of conversations I'm having professionally with other people. So there is, I guess, a hope here in Kalgoorlie that I also saw in Esperance as well. Although I've only been here for 1 week in Western Australia, already there seems to be more energy and a bit more of a freshness to, I guess, the workers and teachers and their ideas about what they could do to support gay and lesbian young people, as well as to challenge and interrupt homophobia. So that's a good thing. By the way, Kalgoorlie is said to be a mining town and very macho and masculine. I have to admit, I've seen so many camp men and rough women around this town. There is a definite LGBT flavour to this place. Well, one of the things that was really interesting about today is that often I blow into a town and I meet people at quite short notice, and often they don't necessarily know what I'm going to talk to them about. Often they are quite concerned that they have something to say, or that I'm going to sort of judge them based on what they are or they're not doing. Today was a really good example of where I was talking to a local mental health worker, and afterwards she was like, was that okay? Like, is that, was that alright? Did I have anything to say? I felt like I really had nothing to say and I was quite boring, and is there anything more that I can add that might be interesting to you? And everything that she had said was quite interesting. Everything that she had said told me a lot about what was happening in Kalgoorlie, but it's one of the natural things that I have to manage, obviously, with people who don't know a lot about the project and are expected to answer a lot of questions at very short notice. So that's a theme that I'm finding across Southern Australia so far, and we'll see whether that's the same on the West Coast. So it's off to Perth for us.